What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. 1 week away from opening day. I was talking to actually Ilya last night how this is like the fastest but also the slowest spring training of that I can remember. I feel like on the one hand it just started, and on the other hand these are the dog days of spring where you're just waiting for opening day to start.
We were supposed to start tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think was the original start date, right? So, it's a strange little interlude, I guess, to the regular season, because it seems like lockout, regular season, but there is spring training in here. We got some guys having a good spring, so it's good. But yeah, it's a little strange with the time.
It's been 30 degrees in the Northeast, so if baseball was starting on the 31st and it's 30 degrees outside, you're just like, what are we doing out here? This is not baseball weather. I almost am for a mid-April start every year if they could work out the schedule somehow, but it just does not feel like baseball around here right now. It's just gone back to winter.
Well, the Yankees were going to start in Texas,
that's
so
true.
That was going to be,
But that's not every year.
Not every year for sure. If you can work it out where some of these Northeast teams are starting down on the road, but you just can't do that. Plus, mid-April, random day you might get I remember sitting in right field on April days and just freezing my ass off, praying for the sun to not go away. When during the summer you're like, please go away, go down behind the stadium.
Yep. You get that Northeast of 2.5 weeks where it's just great weather. 2.5 weeks a year where the sun can be out or it can be in and it's still a good temperature. But after
when that sun goes down and you're in right field, it gets butt ass cold in the second deck because the wind comes in and hits you.
So a couple of housekeeping items before we get on with the episode. Well, first of all, talked to Max Goodman, Sports Illustrated writer, on this episode. Did 45 minutes with him. Really, really good to talk to. Fresh face in the Yankees clubhouse the last couple of years. New beat writer. And one of the interesting things that I talked to him about was just him establishing himself as a writer, which I found really cool, and his approach to trying to get stories from guys and make connections with guys, because he's his first time in the clubhouse was 2020 spring training, and then so he had 3 weeks and it got shut down, and then he's been on Zoom ever since, and so now this is his first full season go at it. So really interesting on that angle, and we covered a lot of other Yankees topics. Definitely stay tuned for that. Also, upcoming schedule for the podcast, because we're right around from opening day. We're going to do all the AL East previews that we've done for 4 or 5 years at this point. A couple of familiar faces returning to the show. I'm going to be talking to Chad Jennings about the Red Sox. Scott, you're going to be talking to Arden Zwelling about the Blue Jays. Two teams, obviously, the Yankees are going to be in dogfights with all year. Tampa as well. So those will be coming out Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then one of my favorite episodes of the year, the bold predictions, in which I always have great predictions.
You usually cop out. So I hope that you muster up some strength here and a little bit of courage to actually make some bold predictions.
This is definitely the year.
This is the year?
Yeah, this is the year. Right. That'll be out Wednesday, and then boom, Thursday is opening day, and then we'll be on a 3-episode-a-week schedule for the most part for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this. I'm going on vacation the following week.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yep, I'm going on vacation, so I'll have my mic. We'll be good. I'll have some equipment, but yeah, I'm going down to Florida.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to be in the middle of the woods where I go on vacation?
No,
with
unfortunately
no reception. Not. Got it.
No, I'll be smack in the middle of Florida.
All right. So you'll still be watching games though, right?
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely watching games.
Good.
In fact, I'll be watching them in peace, hopefully. It'll be great.
The other news is that our podcast is now on YouTube. We're 14 years late on this trend, but hey, it's on YouTube if you're one of these people that wants to watch the show. And we've seen a few people on social being like, hey, is this available on YouTube whenever we post the clips? Yes, it's now available on YouTube. So go subscribe to the Bronx Pinstripes YouTube. Scott and I, all the full episodes will be up there. Clips will be up there. Interviews will be up there. The 161 boys post there all the time. So a lot of good stuff on the YouTube channel. It's late. It's hasn't happened for a number of reasons. Workload being the number one, but now with Logan and Ilya on the team, were able to get it done. So I'm happy it's up on YouTube.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Logan.
All right, so a couple of news items to get to. Last week, Boone mentioned that Chapman will be making appearances in the 8th inning when there's non-save situations to avoid him going into those long stretches of not pitching for a while, because they used to always just hold him out for a save situation, and then if there wasn't a save situation, he might go 6 or 7 days without pitching, and he would come in and he would be a complete disaster. And you knew it from the moment that he threw the first pitch. If it's like the fastball is to the backstop, you're like, oh great, here we go. He's gonna walk 3 guys this inning, and let's just hope no one hits a ball into the gap, or else we're screwed. So hopefully they can avoid those situations this year.
Yeah, I like this. I think it's well, you know, at least they're talking about it. We'll see if we'll see how often it actually happens and how often they need it. Obviously, the games will dictate, you know, when he has too many off days and needs to get some work. But, you know, that's something that we've seen with Chapman. The more he throws, I feel like the better he is. When he does have these pauses, he loses feel for the ball. And if he can't control that fastball, which we know is his critical pitch, if he's around the plate with the fastball, everything else becomes a hell of a lot more dynamic. And if he doesn't have the feel for that fastball because of a long time off, then it becomes problems. And yeah, he's spiking balls, and it's looking bad. So if this is actually something that moves forward, and they're not being as precious about the 9th inning and making sure that he's getting work, I'm on board. I think it's a very solid move. It's smart.
So, I mean, yeah, and this is obviously something he's probably expressed to them. Like, I need more regular outings so I can stay sharp. I'm looking at his splits right now on Baseball Reference for days of rest. And on 0 days rest, he had a 1.17 ERA last year. On 1 day of rest, he had a 1.17 ERA. On 2 days rest, 3.6 ERA. Still good. 3 days rest.
That's not great for a relief pitcher, though.
I mean, it was 10 innings, okay? He gave up 4 runs in 10 innings. I mean, if he...
That's not good.
But if he pitches one more inning and doesn't give up a run, all of a sudden his ERA is down to, like, sub-3. And it's like, my point is that, like, the sample size is pretty small here. It's not egregious. I guess the worst thing about the 2 days rest thing is 7 walks in 10 innings. That's horrendous. So if you can say, but like 2 days rest is not that much. Like, I'm not thinking 2 days rest is normal, especially if like, Monday's an off day, Tuesday there was no save, Wednesday he pitches.
Right. No, that doesn't seem like that's not a long gap between.
So where do we think is a long
saves?
day? Is 3 days rest a long day? Because even 3 days is like, I'm not going to burn my closer just in the 8th inning of a 7-run game just because he hasn't pitched in what would have been 2 days at that point, to then have him pitch on that 3rd day. Like 3 days rest, I still think is okay. No.
I think we have to monitor this throughout the season and see when they actually do feel that he's not. I think what we're trying to avoid is like him going a week without throwing, because that happens.
6 days rest. He pitched 4 innings on 6 days rest. He walked 7 guys and gave up 5 runs. That's when it gets really noticeable.
Yeah,
but
that's bad. So what you're seeing is a trend. The longer the rest, the worse the man gets. So
4 days
if this
rest,
is
he
just
was fine. 5 days rest, he was fine.
Stop bringing in things that aren't convenient to my argument. If they're seeing this and they're adapting throughout the season, and he's getting older as well. Yep. He's not a spry guy anymore, so that could also come into play. Like, hey, spry. It takes me longer to warm up. It takes me, when I don't throw in a game situation for X amount of days, it takes me X amount longer to get ready and to stretch out and to feel like where I am. So there's other, Father Time is also going to account for how they adapt his work schedule. But I'm glad that they're identifying it before the season and saying, this is something that we're going to look at. We're open to him throwing in non-save situations to make sure he's a rep. Like, that's the bigger thing. When we get granular into the season, we'll see what it actually means. But I'm glad that they're open to, him throwing in non-save situations. They're not going to be stubborn or precious about just the 9th inning. There's no reason for it.
No, especially because I think they do have Loizaga, who took the massive step forward last year, that could fill in as a closer if you need him to. And maybe they'll use Chad.
Don't say Chad Green.
Maybe they'll use Chad Green in that situation.
That man has like a -11 WAR. I don't know what it was last year, but it seemed like once a week he was losing a game for us, single-handedly.
Single-handedly blew 3 crushing games, 2 to the Astros, 1 to the Mets. Those are the ones that stick out in my mind. Yeah, he was one of these guys that had, unfortunately, the Dellin Betances syndrome, that the scoreboard says 9th inning and all of a sudden he can't pitch. And it's like, you can't explain it. Metrics can't explain it. That's the human element of the game, right? That's when anytime an analytics-only baseball fan says anything, I'm just like, why can't that guy pitch in the 9th inning? Find what stat it says he can or can't pitch in the 9th inning, and that's where I kind of draw the line. So yeah, I don't know. Britton obviously being on the shelf doesn't help matters, but I think Loaizaga is the logical next person in line there.
Oh, definitely. I think he's our future closer, to be honest.
Yeah, because Chapman's contract is coming up. And I think that the Yankees, I think the days of the Yankees spending $35-45 million in the back end of the bullpen annually are probably over.
They've proven, I mean, you look across the league and the league shows you that you don't need to spend that much money at the back. You really don't. There are so many guys that show up on any given year, especially now. It feels like a new guy is showing up on each team every year as a dominant reliever. So no, I don't think that's smart business. I don't think them spending that much on a reliever unless it's someone who's dominant and they're still, relatively young. But I think that's a great opportunity to grow someone for sure from the farm.
Yeah, I mean,
there's so many right-handed pitchers that throw the ball hard. Throw the ball over the plate and then groom that person in.
On the one,
Loaizaga is that guy. Remember, before he came up, he didn't walk anybody in the minor leagues. Like, he's got that accuracy.
On the one hand, you have Tampa on the one extreme. That's just like, we'll just filter in a new guy throwing 99 miles an hour in the bullpen for minimum salary. And then on the other hand, you get the teams that are willing to spend $17 million for Chapman or $14 million for Britton. I mean, Kimbrel made big money. Like, all these guys made big money. And I don't know where the Yankees are going to fall into that. I would guess somewhere on the middle to high end. But again, the fact that they're paying Chapman 17 and Britton, was it 14? And one of those guys isn't even pitching this year. And yes, their salary is $250 million, but they're not going to add any more salary. It's like Britton's $14 million for IL time is just sticking out like a sore thumb.
I mean, just think about that. Think about a $30 million player that you could slot into this team and have Loaizaga as the closer. Yeah. Would you sign up for that? I would right now.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Freddie Freeman could be our first baseman, or I know he didn't want to play.
It's just not good money spent. It's just not with it as it's just not. There's too many people I think that can do that right now in the bigs.
Yeah, the money, I think, is shifting. The value of positions is shifting, or has shifted over the last couple of years, on where teams clearly are willing to spend. And I think where the Yankees are willing to spend, and I think that is their roster just hasn't caught up to that yet. It needs to do a little bit of a reset. Like Cashman did MLB Network Radio yesterday. He was just firing off the list of all the guys basically making $10 million plus, and it's the entire team, basically. It's like Hicks makes $10 million. Severino makes $10 million. LeMahieu makes $15 million. Like, you go down the list, everyone's making $10 million plus.
Yeah, they need that next, it's going to be very difficult for them to shed that, but they, the bullpen's a place where they can manage it at least. But yeah, I think it's for the Yankees, that's difficult to do unless you have kids coming up that play early.
That's the one thing that Cashman has been able to identify, though, is bullpen arms. Like, that's like what I'm most confident he can identify is good bullpen arms.
Yeah, agreed. No, I think that's absolutely right. I think that starting pitching is a completely different ballgame, but he's done a good job with the relief. And that's an area that the Yankees have actually groomed players in as well. They've done a very good job bringing people up for the bullpen, and you look around, like that's a definite area of strength. And I think with the amount of, again, they really went heavy international draft too with just live right-handed arms that are not going to be able to slot into this rotation. And I think they will have, again, hopefully a lot of these guys had erratic strike percentage. They're not throwing a ton of strikes. If they can narrow that down and get them in the bullpen, there's someone down here is able to take this over. If it's not even Loizaga, there's so many different options.
So another piece of news that MLB is adjusting their protocol for the sticky stuff pitcher checks, and umps are now allowed to check pitchers' hands, which apparently they were not allowed to check their hands, even though they were undressing them, like to the extreme. When we saw who was it that like pulled his pants down? Was that Scherzer last year? That like
I think it was Scherzer.
Yeah, freaking madman Scherzer. Of course, he's gonna pants himself on the mound, and be like, yeah, frisk me. But yeah, now they can check their hands because apparently, or at least MLB suspects, pitchers found a new way to cheat by the end of the year last year and hide it from umps.
With their hands. Like, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The fact that they weren't able to check their hands, I guess, to a level. I swear I've seen them. They were going like this even on the side. I remember them flipping their palms, and I just don't understand.
Their glove. It was always glove and belt and hat. Those were the three that they would always check.
Okay. But the residue comes off on the hands if it's in your glove. If you're throwing with your hand,
maybe that's why
would you not check the?
Well, maybe that's why they weren't checking hands, because they understand like things are going to get on your hand just from the natural course of the game. I don't know. Nah. That
makes no sense.
Nah.
Sticky shit just gets on your hands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had some Skittles in the dugout.
Yeah,
and they melted.
Some Sour Patch Kids.
They melted.
You got some Sour Patch Kids in the dugout, like those barbecue like seeds. Those things have so much powder on them, and then you get a little. It's a hot July day mixed with that barbecue powder. That's pretty tacky.
Well, see, that's what I'm surprised. Like, I'm surprised they're not using. They have the buckets of the Big League Chew, or the what is it? The what's the gum called? The
Big League Chew. Yeah.
It's Bazooka. It's Bazooka. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So that shit is sticky as all hell, and then it becomes hard as a rock. But like, why are they not using candy and sugar? That would seem like a natural thing to do here. Put a whole bunch of Bazooka in your mouth. You got the don't swallow that spit. Keep that spit in your mouth. You got a lot of sugar on there.
Well,
boom.
They're worried about cavities.
Sticky stuff.
You just have a mouthful of sugar for 9 innings. You're gonna get a ton of cavities. The dental
fake teeth.
The dental bills, like
fake teeth.
Yankees are worried about their finances. Like the dental bills are going to be astronomical if you have everyone.
These guys
rotting
get
teeth.
Veneers. It's fine.
Veneers. Go with the Ben Affleck look.
Yeah, just shave them down, put some veneers on, never think about it again.
Listen,
but you have sticky stuff.
If pitchers found a way by the end of the season to cheat again, that would not shock me, right? Like between June and September, oh, you're telling me they found a new way to cheat? Yeah, duh, could have called that one coming. You should have been checking their hands from the beginning, or just find a substance that we all agree on is usable. Pitchers are happy with it, hitters are happy with it, opposition is happy with it, and let's not freaking talk about the sticky stuff anymore.
Well, there's two things that are happening. They're experimenting with a different rosin bag that has a little bit more of a stickiness to it. And then also, I read something about the balls in Japan, I think it was, having a lot, more of a tacky feel to them. That's the other element. Like get that cowhide into a place where it's got a little bit more of a tackiness. Those Newman wide receiver gloves? I used to wear them playing baseball because they had that I think it was kangaroo leather or whatever. It was sticky.
Those things
really,
are
really
like
sticky.
borderline unfair. I've
okay, but you can reduce the amount of stickiness with the way you treat it, I'm sure. But get the ball a little bit more tacky, even though you don't throw technically with the ball, you throw with the laces, and you'll be able to manage that. But they just need to legalize whatever it is to get to a point where the guys can control the ball, so they don't feel the need to get more of a grip. And look, I don't hate that. By the way, like, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to control the ball. They're throwing very hard with a person on the other side. If I'm the batter, I want them to be able to control the ball too.
So the Japan baseball is actually slightly smaller than the U.S. baseball as well. So it's a completely different thing. And you're saying it's tackier and smaller.
It's got a tackier. Yeah.
That's going to gives pitchers way more of an advantage. Like the smaller the baseball, the better you can grip it. Like so the difference is 71.5 to 72.5 millimeters, which is the U.S. baseball in diameter, and the Japanese baseball is 68.5 to 69.5. So it's like two millimeters smaller, 2 to 3 millimeters smaller.
The other thing they could do is raise the laces up again to where they were before, so that the pitchers can actually get a better grip on them, and not have, because obviously they use laces to spin the ball.
Yeah.
But if there's a tacky baseball, like, you're gonna see guys now throwing potentially without the laces, and to get like weird, crazy wiffle ball type spin. I don't know how that works, but that's the game. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
How to make it legal in a way that doesn't, manipulate the game or the ball too much, where it becomes such a distinct advantage for the pitchers, but they're just able to control it better. And I think everybody's happy.
This relates to the other thing, is that every ballpark around the game is going to be using humidors, which makes the ball heavier, a little wetter, and so it's not going to go as far. Right now, only a couple teams use the humidors, like the Rockies in Colorado obviously use the humidor because of the thin air. But now every team's going to be using it. And now I just feel like what baseball is doing is they're putting Band-Aids on the problem rather than just going to the root of the problem and making a consistent baseball that is good. Like, the baseball was fine up until 2016-17. Just go back to the 2013 baseball. Like, you're Rawlings. You own Rawlings. Just make the baseball how it was 7 years ago. And let's not have to add any humidors. We don't have to add any sticky stuff. We don't have to raise laces, lower laces. Like, why can't we just agree this is the specs of the baseball? Let's make it like this. What's with all this, like, trying to fix this, Band-Aid on this, gonna tweak this, gonna do that? It's so annoying.
Well, let me tell you, the first problem is the fact that MLB actually owns the baseball company.
I know.
That's a problem. So there's no arbitrary decisions here. Like, this is all calculated. They control everything, and it's very easy for them to not tell everybody. So it's a conflict of interest. Like, to me, that's one of the biggest problems of this. There needs to be a third party entity that is making these baseballs, and not Major League Baseball. That's one of the bigger problems. That's probably the root of the problem, to be honest, because then you have a hell of a lot more non-biased ways of getting these balls, inspections that are not run and operated by the MLB, the people inspecting by MLB, and the people who are making the baseball MLB. There's just too many easy opportunities to mess with things.
Yeah, when you control everything, it's dangerous. You need like you said, you need outside input to regulate things. And I don't know, I forget what year we talked about this last year, like when the sticky stuff happened, like people did deep dives on, like The Athletic did so many deep dives on the baseball and Rawlings and everything, but just like how that all went down and how baseball is blaming Rawlings when in reality they own Rawlings was just so insane. It was so disingenuous.
Yeah, that's an internal email, technically. That's an internal email.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we doing?
All right, I want to do top 5 things to look for in the last week of spring training, because the last week is always where we get the final decisions on roster and all that kind of stuff. But the first thing I'm keeping an eye on is Luis Severino. We had the news yesterday that he felt some soreness after his last outing, and he is going to throw a bullpen session, and then they're going to try and get him another outing, I believe, over the weekend. But Severino has been awful this spring. In 2 starts, 3 2/3 innings, he's allowed 8 hits, 7 runs. He's walked 5 batters. He's only struck out 1 batter. And in his latest outing against the Phillies, he just was giving up missiles all over the park. And Higgy had a quote who caught him. He said, "The stuff is considerably nastier than the last time I caught him. I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to be right where he needs to be on opening day." So the stuff is nastier, but I guess the location was terrible, and he was not fooling anyone. Again, only 1 strikeout in spring. Not overreacting to spring training stats, because everyone knows spring training stats only count when they're good. But the fact that he's getting crushed and now he's feeling sore, and the guy's pitched only a handful of innings in the last 3 seasons, this all adds up to, I'm kind of worried about Luis Severino.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be. There's nothing that actually says that you shouldn't be worried about Severino. That's the problem. Like, there's no, oh, it's probably fine, because it's never been, oh, it's probably fine. It's always been worst case scenario with him. And yeah, I'm worried about it. I don't care about the stats at all. But velocity seems to be okay, but location, that to me could be a sign from soreness. And why is he sore? Like, what's going on there? So yeah, we just, this is an area that obviously the Yankees are going to monitor, and I just really hope that there's nothing there, and it is truly general soreness, and he's just taking a little bit longer to get ramped up, and that none of this means anything. I'm hoping. I don't feel good about that, though.
They have reported that obviously Garrett Cole's starting opening day, and Luis Severino is slotted in for the second game of the season. But, like, if he's not right, why push it? If he's only going to be pitching 120, 130 innings this year anyway, like, who cares if he has to make a couple more starts in extended spring training and he can't pitch until April 17th or whatever? It's like, are we really going to push it for him?
Well, I don't think it's pushing it. I think that if he's throwing in spring training and he's at a particular point where he feels strong and he's good enough, then he's only going to throw 4 innings in the bigs anyway. So might as well get on the mound and do it. I don't have a problem with that if he's going to be throwing, if he's throwing in the major leagues or if he's throwing in extended spring training.
Well, it's a little different with the team. It's a little different because
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be because if he's not doing it the right way in spring training, then that's also how you can get hurt. Sure. So it shouldn't be.
No,
he's a professional.
But it is different. You're on a major league mound actually in a game. The adrenaline is going to be higher than if you're on an extended spring mound in Tampa. Like, it just is.
That's fine.
And it could be 41
again,
degrees
if he
outside.
Feels okay. Again, it all goes back to if he feels okay. If he doesn't feel okay, then don't throw him. But if he feels okay, then there's no problem.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't feel well, then yeah, it's more of like, are you going to shut him down or are you not going to shut him down? Because if he's throwing and he says he's okay, then there's no reason for him not to be with the team and pitching on the major league level.
So we'll know more after the bullpen and after potentially his next outing. The number 2 thing.
I just don't want to hear keep the MRI machine away from him. And
well, they didn't use the MRI machine back in 2019, which is how this all went downhill, if you remember.
I'm just saying, at this point where he is right now, if we hear MRI machine, no good.
Number 2, how many position players will they carry, and who will those position players be? So we have 28-man roster to start the season. It's extended. It's going to eventually go down to 26, but at least for a month, it's starting at 28. And I can just see them carrying 13 position players and then 15 pitchers, which we'll talk about in a second. Obviously, the starters are obvious, and then I think the bench is where it gets interesting. So the bench options are Marwin Gonzalez, who's not on the 40-man roster, Tim LeCastro, and then the catching situation, which Rortvet's not going to be ready for opening day. He's still taking dry swings, basically, and we're a week away from opening day. And Brantley, who...
I mean, he can't hit the ball anyway, so as long as he can catch, it's fine.
That's true. Just stay back there with your biceps bulging, and you're good.
Yeah, again, we're not looking for him to be in midseason form with the bat because that's like a 190 hitter, so who gives a shit? Can you catch? Are you good behind the plate? That's the bigger part, especially if they have to make a move on the 40.
They're going to have to make a move. So Brantley...
For that position.
If they add Gonzalez and or Brantley, moves are going to have to be made. But I think those are the 13 positions that they're going to be deciding between. And then the number 3 thing is how many pitchers are they going to carry? And I think it's obviously going to be 15. The whole reason that they're expanding the rosters in April to accommodate the fact that they have fewer off days and they had a shortened spring training is so teams can carry more pitchers. The Yankees play 9 days in a row after opening day, April 9th to the 17th. They're going to want 15 pitchers. So the ones are obvious, and then I think you've got the last spot, which can be used for Schmidt, Hill, Garcia, or someone like that. I think someone who can maybe swing, give them some length, is probably what they're going to go for. They're going to have Abreu on the roster. Licky's going to be on the roster. Jolie Rodriguez, Peralta. I think Michael King is a lock for the roster as well, just because of his versatility. But it's really that last spot that you got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I mean, Luis Hill is definitely someone to watch. I think as a guy that could, look, I really like what I saw from him. Obviously, he had that long scoreless streak, and then he kind of fell back down to earth. But he was finding the plate a lot better. If he's able to continue that, and show that he can throw the ball over the plate, I think he's someone to really keep an eye on. I love his demeanor. I really like a lot of things I saw from him last year. And Schmidt's looked relatively good, I think, so far in the spring. So wouldn't surprise me, any one of those guys.
Of the three, who do you think they're most committed to just making a starter?
I think Luis Heel, I think, is probably the one that I, of the three of those guys, if I'm a betting man and saying that, look, I saw him, I know he's had control issues in the minor leagues, but when we saw him up with the Yankees last year, I was surprised in how well he commanded the strike zone. And if he's able to do that and able to really grow in that way, then I think he's by far the most upside in the rotation. I think Schmidt is probably two. Garcia long term, I still think that he's a bullpen guy at some point. I don't think he's got the durability or the repertoire really to succeed as a starting pitcher in the major leagues for a long time, unless he's just like a back of the 4 or 5 guy. I don't think he's got 1, 2, 3 potential anymore. I don't.
So I think
Heel does.
Assuming Severino starts the season on the roster and he's in the rotation, if you're saying Luis Heel is what they're most committed to making a starting pitcher, which I don't disagree with. I would maybe say Clark Schmidt just because of his injury past. Moving him back and forth probably isn't the smartest thing to do. So if you're going to have him pitch in relief, have him pitch in relief. If he's going to be a starter, start him in extended spring and have him start pitching every 5 days. But but what we've sort of talked through is that Garcia is the most expendable and the guy that they can just F with the most and do whatever he wants is the last guy in the bullpen to start the season.
Yeah, that's possible. And Heel, I think they're going to be a little bit more, well, maybe not, because he pitched a good amount of innings last year, so that may have ramped up his, the tolerance for having him in the major leagues. But, the commitment to him as a starter doesn't necessarily mean he's got to start the season as a starter either in the major leagues. They may want him starting the season as a starter in AAA so that he's getting the reps that they're going for. And you're right, with Clark Schmidt and his history, they're not going to yank him around so much. But so in the short term, it may be Schmidt, but I think in the long term, it's Luis Heel.
Clark Schmidt's curveball was ranked #1 curveball in the Yankees organization, which I mentioned because it's interesting that could play in relief really well. If you can pair an elite curveball with a, call it slightly above average fastball for 18 pitches, that could be dangerous out of the bullpen.
Absolutely. If he has, you're right. If he has that second pitch that he's able to set up that curveball and that curveball stays dynamic, through all these injuries, then yeah, I could see him having success. He reminds me a little bit of Ian Kennedy. And what
it's
and
crazy that Ian Kennedy turned out to be a pretty good pitcher.
He's still in the
major
league,
leagues.
Yeah.
But he's had a long career, and when it was Kennedy, Jabba, and Hughes, Kennedy was always the lowest on that list. We were all like, oh, Jabba's got the best stuff. Hughes is going to be the best starting pitcher. And then, we also have this guy named Ian Kennedy. And then it turns out Ian Kennedy has had the longest career. Phil Hughes also made a crap ton of money in his career. I don't think anyone's feeling sorry for him. Poor Jabba, though. Poor Jabba.
Poor Jabba, man. Goddamn midges.
The midges really ruined Jabba's career.
It ruined him, man.
Yeah.
The other guy we didn't mention, who's kind of a Manny Banuelos is interesting, and a guy that I'm rooting for. Speaking of old Yankee prospect pitchers, he's a guy that he's still around.
Yeah.
By the way, age 31, still hanging out, back with the Yankees.
Only 31.
Dark horse opportunity.
Only 31. He's been around for 10 years and he's only 31. Yeah. But
Manny Banuelos as the dark horse in the back of the rotation coming up.
You'd need to have a 40-man move, which is the next thing.
Yeah, there's 40-man decisions coming up. There's no doubt about it.
The number 4 thing is the Yankees' 40-man roster is full, and they're going to have to clear some space because Marwin Gonzalez is going to make the team. He's not on the 40-man roster. Rob Brantley is likely going to be the backup catcher to start the season. He's not on the 40-man roster. So what do? Obviously, they can DFA people. They can make a trade. They can try and make a trade and just offload some 40-man people for some flyer prospects. But I think the most...
Was there a corresponding move? Ridings went on the 60-day,
No, he
right?
did not go on the 60-day IL. We were talking about this beforehand. He had a back injury in spring, over the winter, and he's been throwing. He's not going to be ready for opening day, but because he's been throwing, I don't see him as a 60-day candidate. So he has to be on the roster. So Miguel Andujar getting DFA'd is the likely outcome here. I mean, it sucks for him, but like he has no value. I know the Yankees are pushing him on the trade market. Teams are like, you're going to DFA him in 6 days. Like, what are we going to trade you for? No. And that's...
Well, no, because then they have control a bit with landing the player. That's why they do it. So it's going to be for a bag of balls, but at the same time, if you step up and are able to trade a lower level prospect, at least you can control it and be in position to have the player. You know, if he gets DFA'd, you know, you're not in control at that point.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just he's got no value. He's got absolutely no value.
He's a major league bat. He's a major league bat for another team for sure. Like he could be, especially with the DH. Like I'm surprised. I would be surprised if they wouldn't be able to move him, especially to a National League team. You know, that's bringing on a new DH or thin in that spot. Like he could absolutely fill that gap.
Yeah. So what they do with that 40-man roster is going to be interesting. Expect moves a couple days before the season starts. And the last thing, the elephant in the room, is Aaron Judge's contract extension. The deadline is fastly approaching, the official deadline of opening day to get a contract extension done. I do talk about this with Max coming up, but at this point, a week away from opening day, do you think something gets done?
There's more momentum now than I thought there would be as far as the way that Cashman is talking. So it sounds like they're putting deals together and they're going forward, and the people are the agent and the team are talking. So I'm a hell of a lot more opportunistic today than I was last week. So yeah, I would say that if a deal is going to happen with Aaron Judge, that it will happen before the season, because they're certainly engaged. And unless it's an insulting offer or you know his move all along was to test free agency, then I do see a deal getting done. Until then, we'll see if the deal's enough to sign him. I hope it is. I hope they're not being petty and go after the guy and just make sure that they secure their franchise player.
So you think you said if his intention is to test free agency all along, I don't think he wants to get to free agency. I think he wants to use the idea of him
he
going
can use
to free agency
as leverage.
As leverage, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think if he hits free agency, he's gone.
I agree.
So, but I don't think he wants.
I
don't think he wants to go. That's the thing. So I don't think he wants to hit free agency. So I think he wants to sign an extension. And
I think he wants to get paid. And if we all put that away, put the fandom and like the romanticism of a player being on. We learned this with Cano. Cano cut us. He hurt us in a bit because we thought there was no chance he was going anywhere else. He was going to sign with the Yankees. He was going to be the franchise guy. He was going to be the guy. He was the guy. And he didn't. He did not sign. He went out and signed with the freaking Seattle Mariners. What? And it took everybody by shock. So you know you can get paid elsewhere. Judge knows that. If he doesn't get what he wants in this offer, I certainly expect him to test free agency, and I do expect him to be gone if that's the case. So the Yankees need to come correct with this guy if they want him, and they need to do it right now, or else, yeah, we're in serious jeopardy of losing him.
Because
for sure.
Say the Yankees offer him a 6-year contract extension right now, and he's like, no, I'm going to get more than that on the free agent market. And then he goes to free agency, and the Yankees are obviously going to make him another offer. Is it all of a sudden going to be 7 years?
No, that's the thing. Someone else is going to overpay, and they're going to lose it because they're not going to go to the years or whatever. Whoever's going to overpay, somebody will overpay. And with that overpayment, the Yankees will be out, and with their being fiscally conservative as they are, still spending a good amount of money, but the long-term contracts, the way the new Yankees world, they're not going to do it. They're not going to sign a 10-year deal, an 9-year deal.
I don't think anyone's going to give him 10 years.
Might.
No one's going to give him 10 years. I think
somebody might give him a Bonilla contract just to get Aaron Judge in the building.
Well, that's deferred money. That's different.
You couldn't see the San Diego Padres doing that. I could.
I don't know what the hell the Padres are doing. Like, on the one hand, they're signing Tatis for 72 years and Manny Machado out of nowhere. And on the other hand, they're trying to, like, offload money. So I don't know what's going on in
Dodgers,
San Diego.
like the Dodgers coming in. Someone
the Dodgers
taking him back to California.
The Dodgers have all-stars at every position. I don't know where he would play.
Add another one.
I think, well, he's from the Bay Area, right? Judge?
Yes.
Yes. So San Fran would seem to be like
they don't pay people though.
They do.
They just don't pay.
They do pay. They pay for certain guys. They don't pay everyone, but they will pay out of nowhere. Barry Zito got paid by them.
That was a long
I
time
know
ago.
that was. But they paid Buster Posey.
And they stole him from
Oakland.
another Bay Area team. Yeah.
No, so for Judge though, the point I was trying to make is that if he's asking for 7 years and the Yankees are only willing to offer 6, and if that's a non-starter for him, then he's gone, because that's not going to change between now and next fall. It's just not going to change. I don't know what could possibly change it. Oh, him having another MVP caliber season? Like, no, that's not going to change it.
The Yankees need to look around. They need to offer him fair market value and not try to get any kind of a discount on him, because if they don't give it to him, if they don't pay him right now what people are getting paid on the open market, he's going to leave and get paid that on the open market.
Do you know what could change it in the Yankees' favor? Is Judge has injuries this year and only plays in 105 games. And then the Yankees are like, yeah, you're not getting 8 years on the market. Here's that 6-year offer again. Take it or leave it. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll take it. Because he is
I don't think he's in that position. He would have to be something drastic for sure. But again, man, with the DH in the National League now, the teams are wide open.
That's true. It does open up to a lot. It opens up teams in the National League to saying we could see how Aaron Judge fits on our roster in the year 2028.
Yep.
But the Stanton thing with the Yankees paying him through 2028, again, the Yankees, it's on the face of it, in a vacuum, yes, you pick Judge over Stanton every day of the week, but you have Stanton already. He's going nowhere. He's going to have to be a DH sooner than later, more than he is right now, even more than he is right now, which he already is a half a time DH. He's going to need to be a 95% time DH in a couple of years. Judge is not long for the outfield, okay? So is it first base down the line?
He could be. I mean, no, he absolutely could be. You don't know. I mean, it depends on injury history or the injuries and all of that. But the DH does expand the available teams for him, because there's a fail-safe now. Now you have a much more secure plan because of the designated hitter spot, and he could slide in there. So yeah, it opens everything up much bigger for him, and he knows that.
All right, so this is our last episode prior to opening day. I don't see a deal getting done the day before opening day. Like, it's going to happen probably. If it happens, it'll happen in the next few days. What is your prediction for a contract extension? You think it's going to get done, right? You seem to think it's going to get done.
I think it's going to get done. I think the Yankees, I hope that they feel the pressure right now. I hope they understand that this is the time that it has to get done, and they make all efforts to do that.
So what kind of deal?
I think it would be a really big mistake if they walked into the season without him.
What type of deal you're looking at? Like, how many years and about what AAV?
I think it's going to be around 30, and I think it's going to be, what year are we in? I think he's going in his 31 season.
No,
there's 30
he's going
season.
Into his age. He's turning 30.
In 30 season. So
30
would not surprise me if it was like a 7-year deal with an option at the end. So
7 years kicking in after this current year, right? Because again, this is his final year of arbitration. He's going to make about 20.
I think they'll buy out the final year of arbitration too.
Why?
It's an 8-year deal, because it'll be part of it.
So he's going to get an increased salary this year, or no? They don't want to do that. They don't want to increase the salary this year. They're going to pay him $20 million. That's what they want to pay him this year. They don't want to pay him $30 million.
I think if they have to lock him up, they might have to.
Well, then
that's something that nobody else can do.
Doesn't that bump them over the next luxury tax threshold? If Judge's salary goes up $10 million this year, doesn't that bump them over the next tax?
It shouldn't. Last time I checked, they were about $15 million under the next threshold.
But then that pushes you up against it, where if you need to add something at the deadline, you can't. If they're not willing to go over the next.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you can. You obviously always can. But like, if Hal is like, well, now we're $5 million under.
I'm just saying. I mean, that's a clear opportunity for them to give him something that he can't get anywhere else. Buying out that arbitration year and giving him more money. Right, like that's a distinguishing factor.
You can do it other ways. You can give him a signing bonus that gets spread across the entire thing.
Okay, however they're going to do it, whatever. So I think it's a
7-year deal,
8 years, 7 year with an option. So I think it's going to come. It'll probably be 7 or 8 years
after this year, or no, including this year. I think it's going to be. I think they are going to offer him 6 years, and I don't think that's going to get it done. If it's going to get done, it's going to have to be at least 7 years. And I think it's going to have to be over $30 million. I think it's going to have to be mid-30s million dollars.
At 30 to 35, I think you're looking at. I think it'll be under 35, though.
Could you see them doing like $38 million or $40 million for shorter term? Do you think either side would accept that?
I don't know if Judge would accept that, but I could see the Yankees trying that. I think they would be open to it.
I mean, there's a certain thing to be said for some players who kind of like that ego boost of I'm the highest paid at this position. Like that's like
You
Correa.
think Judge is that guy? I don't think Judge is that guy.
I don't know. I mean, Correa is a completely different. I'm not comparing the two, but Correa signed
Correa's
a
an asshole.
35.
Judge is not an asshole.
Correa signed 35.1 million AAV for the specific reason of being the highest paid middle infielder.
Yeah, because he's an asshole.
Alex Rodriguez did the same thing back.
Also an asshole.
I'm trying to.
Who else did that? Oh, who else did that? Trevor Bauer, asshole.
I'm trying to on the fly think of someone who's
Max
not
Scherzer,
a D-bag.
psychopath. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. Definitely, or this part of today's show. Stay tuned for my conversation with Max. Scott, anything else you want to touch on?
Really looking forward to my vacation. It's going to be
This is
awesome.
vacation in the first week of the season. That's almost worse than
It's better than getting married in the playoffs. I'll say that.
You had to bring that up. I was going to say it was worse than me taking a vacation in the week the lockout was going to end, but whatever.
No, it's worse. It's better than getting married in the playoffs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know when that's going to be. And April games don't count, right? So.
Well, actually, they count just the same as September games.
Ah.
Yeah. But don't let
I'll be in
anyone on
sunny
Twitter tell you
Florida.
that. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.